So welcome everybody to Off the Record Airtable Secrets and Lore. This is week 21. We're a group of Airtable users exploring new ways to use Airtable to optimize our businesses and lives. We're open to hearing from anyone about your experience, good or bad, using Airtable to make a positive impact in the world. We attempt to promote people coming from any level to share their ideas or ask questions. We also share our experiences, tips, and practices, and offer ways to get help and get involved in the community. We meet every Wednesday from 7 to 7:30 in Clubhouse, 7:30 to 8 here in the Facebook group doing a live stream. So to kick things off, I'll do a recap of some of the news that we've already talked about. But what we talked about was software released 2.0, and then there were some Airtable outages this week. I didn't experience any Airtable outages personally. I feel like I didn't see them in the community. But I think that's the extent of the news. Doesn't seem like it's a very hot week for news this week. And then it looks like Devin will not be joining. He'll be joining next week.
Do I have audio?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm working on the video thing.
So is that the new iMac? The Mac Mini?
Mac Mini.
Nice.
Yeah, I quickly realized that two 34-inch monitors was a bit overkill.
Not to mention desk space utilization.
Yeah, my printer has to go on another desk now.
Sad printer.
Daniel, I would love to see some of anything you've worked on in the base that you've been building, that you've been like slowly sharing with I want to say the tarot or the moon cycles. I can't exactly remember what it was.
Yeah, I've been calling it eternity.
Yeah.
Let's see what we can do here. Hold on. Let's see. I don't know that there's been a ton of changes. Let's see here. Share screen, and there we go. Share. Okay. So this is very similar to what you've seen Chris's layout. These two tabs I haven't really done much with. Let's see here. Let me kick over to the default view. And I set up, I was talking about a couple of my linked record fields coming off of the this reference prayer table. Basically, what I was trying to do was set it up so that I have. Let's get to today here. Let's see here, June 9th. Okay, so it's the 9th day of the. Nope, that's July. June 9th. Okay, here we go. Oh, I'm a year off.
I did not even realize either of those times that it wasn't the right day.
It's okay. This looks a lot more familiar. Okay. So, so as you can see, it's the 9th day of the month, and so I've got mental, physical ratings, morning reflection, some of the emotions. Yeah, life has been a little weird lately. So what I was trying to do was set it up so that I could pull in some specific information from one table based on the day of the month that it was. And so I've got a lot, as you can see, this one, or this field, and this field are all pulling in from this table over here, and so I'm just referencing this this ID is pulling against the actual date.
Just the day
And,
of the month.
right. Right. And then what I've actually got going on here is I set up one automation. One automation. This is like the very first automation that I did. And it's a when record enters view calendar view for today, which obviously only has one record, and then it's got a email that goes out. And the interesting part was it actually took a little bit of work to pull in the embed the moon phase image so that it actually went out in the email. And that was actually surprisingly hard to do. It took a little bit to figure out that I could do an HTML image code off the record URL that I'm actually pulling in from here, which for some reason, because that was a linked record, it worked for this one, but not for the other one. So that's a bit odd. But literally, I've got some of the basic data coming in, and then I've got the the morning meditation and some of the description, and so that comes in an email each morning, and then I've got a link to the actual record so that when I'm in the email on my phone, I can click the record link and it will automatically open the Airtable URL, which on an iPhone automatically kicks over to the Airtable app, which then opens the specific record in the Airtable app on my phone, and that's where I enter the rest of the data for the day. So this is actually proven to be a fairly useful automation email for me. So that's worked pretty well. I've been happy with that. So that's been pretty much what I've been doing with that. It's been good to kind of set up some sort of daily rhythms of stuff that is fairly repeatable, but from day to day, it's good for, okay, now I'm thinking about this, now I'm thinking about that, sort of thing. I I life has been a bit full, so I really haven't thought about pulling more data in, but I have wondered about things like weather. And part of the challenge that I'm actually up against now is as I'm actually starting to get, if I click over into emotions, I'm now starting to get some data in as far as, okay, I hit this emotion on this day, this emotion on this day, and now trying to like actually figure out like how to actually graph that to like pull something useful from the graph of the data. But yeah, I was working on the emotions, and this is literally just the emotion wheel that Chris has been working from. But I was trying to actually create definitions. So, for instance, I set up the definition of overwhelmed. I just pulled the Webster's definition of overwhelmed, and I was actually thinking that if I could like pull the definition of fearful, pull the definition of anxious, pull the definition of overwhelmed, I could combine this into like one continuous string of, okay, this is the definition for that emotion. The problem that I've actually run into is that on the Airtable app, it's fairly easy to get these three to show, and the emoji to show, but to actually, while I'm over here looking at the Today app, to actually pull the full on, like the multiple levels to actually see the definition of the emotion. It like doesn't really, it doesn't do that well in the iPhone app.
Like before picking the emotion.
Yeah, well, actually, the interesting part about picking the emotion is that, and I don't have a good way to share that, but so I can actually demonstrate it. But like, you can pick an emotion, but then if you like, you're like, you know what? That one's not actually the one I wanted. Like, it's actually quite difficult to remove it from the Airtable app, so you can go in and add a new one. It's like, okay, now I've got to load up my my computer
Yeah.
and actually pull that up. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Um, so
This is
yeah,
awesome. I love it. This has been like the one thing I've been pushing off because I want to do something with Chris on where we go in and like create something like this for me. But this is awesome. I feel like it's just enough to where it's very helpful and you'll use it, but it's not like too overwhelming with like too much stuff in you.
yeah, yeah. There was actually something. Let's see if I can actually pull. I did. Actually, oh, apps. There we go. Maps. I started playing around with the geocoding and actually having a little. Oh, there we go. Um, so let's see here. If I can actually pull this up. So this was the date I was born, and this I actually added the address of the hospital where I was actually born. Um, so I've been trying to add more of those dates in, and you'd see that. Let's see here if we can scroll back all the way back, very beginning. Um, so I added the address, got the geocoding going. Um, but I noticed once I started adding a couple of records that it was like the app wouldn't necessarily pick up the locations consistently, and I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. I would actually like to ask Chris if there's some sort of special trick with that, but um, I've actually got, let's see here, I think I've got a hidden field. Yeah, the geocode is in, it's in here. Yep. Um, I actually added the way it works with the app is you basically tell it where you want the geocode to go, and then it fires off some sort of a hash against the address. Um,
So so you can just give it the address and it'll give you what's in the geocode column.
right.
You can give it an address or a pair of coordinates.
Okay.
Right. And so my goal is to actually start doing adding some pictures of places I've been, because I've actually had a chance to go around to the world. So I've got pictures from a variety of different places. Um, but that is something that's a whole nother level that I haven't taken this, but looking to actually do that at some point. So
That's
anyway,
awesome. I'll see if I can share one of the projects I've been working on. Let's see. I'll share my stonk space since we were talking about that earlier. So this one is, I had started creating this for a client, but I think it's pretty useful. So you guys let me know if it makes sense what it's doing. But basically, with stocks, you buy and you sell stocks, and that's about it. At any given point, they have like the current price, but the biggest thing that this is solving for is like minimizing your taxes. And the way you do that is when you sell stocks, you sell the stock, like the shares that you bought at the highest price, so you made the lowest profit on. It's like it's doing this instead of either a LIFO or a FIFO, like last in, first out, first in, first out. You're picking most expensive stocks that you hold first out. So in here, I think, yeah, I said there's like these three, and this one doesn't use the ticker in the example, but it would have the ticker there. And basically you could, like the first thing one would do is you would go buy the stock. So if I wanted to go buy Yum Brands, say I bought it today at $7, I bought 200 shares and I didn't sell any yet. Real slowly. So that's how much I bought of it. So it shows you like there's a lot of like calculations and roll-ups that it shows. But basically there's 200 shares remaining to sell is what this is showing. And I haven't sold any of this lot either, so there's 75 there. If I were to go to the sell, I could go sell, if I sold today some Yum Brands, and we'll say I sold like 250. And I haven't allocated any. So you can see I have 250 shares remaining. And I sold it at $10. So right now you can see income. You can't see like profit or the return yet because I haven't allocated it. But once you do allocate it, so if I go start allocating the Yum Brands. So first I pick the buy. And so for Yum Brands, I'll pick the higher one. And this also, I believe it only shows where there's remaining shares. There's another addition. So I can sell 200 of these because it was the highest one where I was paying the highest. And so now there should be 0 shares remaining there, but there's 50 remaining there. I don't know if this is interesting to anyone, but I enjoyed creating it, so.
Not playing in that AMC, huh?
Huh?
I said you're not playing in that AMC, huh?
No, I actually don't own any. I don't own any stocks. I don't think.
It's been a rough week.
Really? That's unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that.
Actually, it's just been a rough day. I don't know what happened.
In the stonk market?
Yeah, Bitcoin was up, but everything else was down.
Interesting. So there must be something going on because unless okay, so I already put that I sold those. So now, so I guess something, if I were to allocate 51 of that one, then I would have over allocated. So it'll show up there. So like I allocated too many shares to buys. In the same way, if I allocated 201 shares here, then it'd say I allocated too much to the specific buy, but the math is really slow on it. That's basically the basics of the stock, like tax allocation base. If you want to use it, should save you some money in taxes, but I don't think stonks are that enjoyable. Does anybody here do anything with stonks? No, Eric.
Sorry.
I don't do anything with stocks, but I am quietly collecting information of how people use junction tables for an app that I'm building. So casually observing how that particular junction table, you would like make new records and whatnot.
Yeah, that one, it's kind of a manual process. I tried to make it as like intuitive as possible so that you would have those formulas letting you know if you're out of bounds on either allocating to the buy or to the sell. And then also making it so you could only pick the buys where you had not allocated those. Those were like the three big ones for that junction table. One that's been coming up a lot for me has been in like online course sales, people tracking enrollments.
Mhm.
Like they can track very easily the courses and they can track students and they just want to link those right together.
Yeah.
But one course can have many students and one student can be in many courses. So it's not a very good relationship there. So
Yeah.
it's like the easiest junction table that I always think of is the enrollments table.
Yeah, my current headache, I call all of my projects headaches, is something that'll help make the creation of junction table records easy. So right now I have it where you can select one kind of top level thing like a course and then select 10, 15, 20, whatever number of students, and then click a button and it will create 10, 15, 20, 50, whatever you selected, junction table records where one for each one, student A, course A, student B, course A, student C, course A, all in one go. So
Have you, like, how is that compared to is there like a script template?
there probably is a script template to do something very similar. I didn't look at it. I built everything kind of just from scratch. I know there's like a few that help with the creation of junction table records, but a lot of the templates don't really have much in the way of letting you know, hey, you might be creating a duplicate of a junction record that already exists. You can code that in, but like the templates aren't going to include that in there. Part of the interface I've designed thus far shows, hey, based on what you've currently selected, these two junction records already exist. So you might want to remove them from the selection.
Yeah, that would be a lot more useful than the one that's existing.
Yeah, I have a working demo of it if anyone cares.
I'd love to see it.
Okay. I don't want to turn this into me pimping my own projects, which is why I
We
feel the
do.
need to ask.
We would love to see.
All right, well, here we go. This is a fairly complicated base, so it has, I think there's something like 5 different junction tables in here. I'm going to start with the most simple one. Common use case, purchase order line items. You have a purchase order. You can order any number of items and you want to know, I've ordered 5 of a particular item, 3 of another item, etc. So if I select my junction table as the purchase order line item one, and start to pick a customer, it will show me all of the line items that are currently associated with that purchase order. And then I can start selecting new products to select. This helps me just so I remember not to click, passion fruit 20-ounce bottle because that's already been selected. So let me find one that isn't already in here. If I select something that hasn't had a similar junction table record already selected, there's no matching records, so I don't have to worry about a possible duplicate. I'll just select another one. This button I have here basically is what controls how many line item records are going to be created. If I turn it off, it will only create one new record, and the one record will be linked to both of them. If I turn this on, it'll create 2 records, one for each. So just to demonstrate, I'm just going to click the create button, and then both of them are created. It shows up now that hey, these are things matching your current selection, obviously, because I haven't unselected anything yet. And then the 2 that were created pop up using Airtable's interface. You can adjust the quantity associated. Since you can have a default number apply to a number field, I just set it at quantity of 1. But if I wanted to go back in here and edit for And then for the other one I created, I just click the down arrow and I did that to 3 or something like that. If I created more, I'd be able to keep clicking the down arrow or using any of the keyboard shortcuts to go through the ones that were created.
That's awesome.
Someone in the community forums had a use case for junction tables where they wanted to just, if I can find where products is.
I have a really quick question
Yes.
on something that's not specifically related to the junction tables, but
Yeah.
specifically the default value that you were showing.
Sure.
I had a use case today where a guy is, and like, there's a really easy workaround to this, but I'm kind of curious on why it doesn't work. If you create a record via automation and you leave the field empty, it doesn't use the default value. Like even Airtable, which I know it still uses like the API, but it won't use the default value unless it's like, I guess, created by an app.
Well, is it something that they, within the automation interface, they have the field selected, or they just never selected the field at all?
They did not select the field at all.
That's annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really annoying.
But like if they went and they showed me, they went and edited the field and like it was the default value. There was a number there and it just showed up empty every single time. And I had remembered that that had happened to me before as well, but I'd never seen it. Like so,
they should fix that.
yeah. The like easy solution is just to go add it in the automation.
Yeah, but if you'd have to change it in 2 places if you ever want to change what the default value is. And for each automation that has to do with creating a record in that table, you'd have to make sure to do it in that automation step. So that's kind of, it's not ideal.
Yeah. But what were you going to say about product?
Someone had like a request. They just want to go to the products, table and then do something like this where they just select any product and then like hit a button and then have all of those be associated with whatever. So I'm thinking of adding a button somewhere in here that says like import selection from grid view. So you select this and click that instead of doing this one by one. You could just kind of go like that on the side.
That would actually be a solution to what I set up for a client. The same client I was actually just referencing that's having that issue. So their use case is they have a view like this, and basically they check a box in here and it goes and creates a record in a junction table. But they like just actually check like a checkbox field instead of checking the box over there. They go manually link it up to the other record that in the junction table.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense at all?
It does. So I'm trying to think through how to add it and where to put the button. Part of my whole thing is interface design and trying to make sure whatever I design isn't like crowded.
Yeah.
But that's definitely something that I want to add, because as soon as I read the post on the forums today, I was like, yeah, that sounds like something that should be in here.
Can you tell, like, when you're in that app, or like when you're, I guess, coding, that they selected records? Like,
yeah, there is a for cursor, I believe it's what it's called. You can in a same kind of vein, if you had a button field that was assigned to an app, you can pass on whatever record was clicked to the app and then use the ID for that record however you want. Or there is use cursor, which is a React hook that will take all of the currently selected records. So you could actually do it pretty easy.
That's pretty cool.
Or now that I'm thinking about this out loud, you could take whatever the current view is and then take every record in that view. So maybe there's 2 buttons that I add here that says import selection from, currently selected, or from all from current view. And then it would know, like I would know what table this view is in. So it would know which field to fill in. I'm in products, so it would only import the selection into this box and not purchase order.
Yeah. Yeah. This is awesome. I like this a lot. And how, like, do you think you'll release this one to the App Store under,
Yeah,
or
this
is
is
it like a private one?
This is going to be a marketplace. No one specific has asked me to commission something like this. So this is wide release marketplace app.
Nice.
I built it in a weekend, so it should be out soon. It was a lot less complicated than my last major adventure.
Looking to see if I have any other bases to share. Rebecca, do you want to share any bases you've been working on?
I can show my new Miro board.
Let's see it.
Hold on.
I feel like it's Airtable show and tell today.
It's a new computer, so it's making me click things.
The worst thing, I didn't get a new computer, but I did a factory reset of my old laptop I've had for years. And I was like enjoying the kind of feel of a brand new computer where it was just running faster because there's not a whole bunch of extraneous data. And then I forgot to enable screen sharing for Chrome and Zoom. So I've
Yeah,
had
that's
like,
exactly what I'm doing right now.
yeah, I had like multiple meetings where I was like, okay, well, I have to leave the meeting really quick because they're going to make me restart Zoom so I can enable
So is
screen
that
sharing.
what I have to do?
It might ask you to do that.
Okay, I'll be back.
I had to do it for Chrome for sure.
And then there were 3.
Yeah, pro tip. Do make something to keep in mind is app permissions to make sure you get those squared away if you reset your computer or buy a new computer.
So do you take on clients who are only, like, you only take on people looking for custom app development, or do you take on other clients as well?
I'm an app developer, and I take on clients very, very rarely. I'm like hyper focused on a few different types of apps that I like to build. And if I were a regular developer, I would probably take on more clients of all sorts and types. But I just, because it's kind of a side business for me, I have the luxury to be a little bit more selective over projects that are like similar to ones I've already built or just really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. What's been your favorite one that you've worked on so far?
There is, I made an app that's open source for checking things in and out of a system and keeping like a record of whether something went out in good condition and was returned in like poor condition, stuff like that. And I had a client who asked for a customized version of that. And it was just nice seeing that system more robust than how I originally was picturing it. Because the one that's on GitHub that anyone can use is useful, but it's very, limited in what it can do. And then the expanded version that I built for the client was just nice. And it was also nice to see it being used for an actual business in their day-to-day instead of like this nebulous theoretical project that it started out from.
Nice. Yeah, I built essentially like a library checking in, checking out system, but it wasn't anything. It was just, could probably be using a junction table between items and people, but it didn't track status or condition. Well, Rebecca was in here.
And then she left. I'm telling you, app permissions there. It'll be the death of you.
One time I downloaded my Google Drive file system or something on my computer. Now it like every day it gives me a notification that I need to update some system preferences. There's like 2 apps that I'll like, they're just always there, always giving me a reminder. Devin really missed out on talking about Airtable pricing from last week. forgot to ask.
I know. Well, it's probably the better we wait for Chris too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, but
Okay.
yeah,
Back.
I think I'm here.
you got it.
Are you seeing a Miro board?
Yes, we are.
Okay, it's like a quarter of a Miro board, but I just started on it today. And so I just took one of the templates.
Is this
It's
customer
like
life cycle?
Sorry?
Was it called customer life cycle? Because I feel like I have one very similar to this.
It's called like a customer relationship map or something like that. I guess I can, this one right here,
Oh, yeah.
customer journey map.
Nice.
And I work at a company with really labor intensive processes with no training materials. So I would eventually like to delegate some of the things that I do. And so I thought this was kind of a great way to outline kind of the lifespan of a truck. And so where it starts, you know, these are actual statuses in a single select in my base. So it's kind of telling whoever's doing this how to push it along the pipeline. And so eventually each of these things will have like detailed instructions about every single step of that process, which I know it seems like a little bit overkill, but it's necessary. And so it'll also include like anything they need to scan or print or make a label for or whatever, and links to any of the forms involved in logging those things through the rather extensive logging system that I've built for keeping track of all of this stuff. So I can thank Chris for my Miro obsession now.
It looks good.
Thanks.
Well, I'm not sure that I have anything else to go through. Could look at software 2.0, but they've already got it enough on socials and the Facebook group and the Slack group and the other Slack groups and the other Facebook groups. Does anybody have any final thoughts? Eric, did you want to chime in? I'm gonna guess no. Is anybody
I'm
here?
really interested by this concept that one company going down can bring down the entire cloud, basically.
What prompted that?
Well, last night, Fastly went down, which is like a major hosting. I don't know how all this stuff works, you guys. Hold on. I took notes. I was a good kid.
I remember learning about data centers in college, and they would always talk about like the amount of redundancy built into those systems to where even if like the power went out and it was like a week later, they'd still have generators running and they'd have backups to the backups of the backups of generators running.
Well, the problem is this is the company that like supports all of those companies. And so Amazon, AWS was down and shopping on their services. Google was down. Something called Stack Overflow, which I gather is a developer something.
Yep.
And all of the services run on any of those things were all down. It says due to POP server configuration. And kind of a funny note, and I attached the URL in the base for the YouTube video I found all this on, but the website The Verge tweeted out a public Google Doc apologizing to their customers with the anyone can edit permissions left on. And so Twitter pretty much obliterated this document. It has since been fixed. I was hoping to get a screenshot or two, but they fixed it.
This is why people send PDFs or why, you know, a lot of companies do screenshots of letters that they write, and then put the screenshot of the letter so you can't like select the text, or select it easily, or you can't go in and edit the document. It's a rough day for whoever whoever job that was.
Yeah, it was one of those glad it's not me moments.
That's crazy that there's like something universal to all those, like the data, like the servers, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know much about servers, so you know, I can't really speak too intelligently on the subject, but just I know when Airtable goes down, it sucks for a lot of businesses that run off of Airtable because it's all in the cloud. It's not like there's not really an offline mode that you can use, so you can't, you know, make edits to things and then wait for it to be backed up whenever the servers come back online. So even just that similar problem at a grander scale is just a nightmare.
Yeah. That like 3 levels deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and basically what I gathered from what they said happened was that some developers were in changing things and broke something.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to be that developer today
Yeah.
on the streets. Offline mode was one thing I didn't hear brought up last week, Camille.
No, I didn't hear about it either. Man, it would be nice, but especially for the Airtable desktop apps, like I get, you know, the web app not having offline mode. You can have offline mode in like Google Sheets and the Google Drive kind of system. I think if you have Chrome as your browser, it allows you to do offline mode for that. But I wouldn't, you know, I'm not too, you know, demanding that the web app have offline mode, but the desktop app, I feel, should be able to temporarily store some of the data that you change on your system, on your desktop, and then when you reconnect to the internet, then push those updates out. That would be super useful, I think, for just about anyone, really.
Yeah.
You don't want to be.
I saw something in the community today, but I don't
Hmm.
remember how old it was, about somebody was asking, hey, when are we going to get an offline mode? And somebody from Airtable cited an interview with Howie talking about how difficult that sort of thing is
Mhm.
and why it's basically not on the roadmap for them. And I will try to share it in the group if I find it.
Mhm.
But it doesn't look to me, based on that comment, that it's coming at all on the roadmap.
Yeah, I think if it were on the roadmap, I think we would have heard about it, based on our call last week. But man, there's some things that I'd like to push for. We did hear, you know, some of the reasons why some other commonly requested features aren't so readily available. They may or may not be on the roadmap. It's just by the way Airtable handles delivering you your data. Like they deliver essentially the entire base at once. There's no pagination, if that makes sense. We talked about in the week before some of the open source alternatives to Airtable. If you notice in all their screenshots at the bottom of the screen, they have, you know, go to page 2, go to page 3 of your records, instead of an endlessly scrolling list. And I think there's just a fundamental difference in how different platforms and programs kind of handle that situation. And because Airtable delivers everything at once, it allows apps to work the way that they do, but it, you know, is some of the reasons why you can't really hide certain information from people who have access to the entire base. Because from Airtable's perspective, if you can see the whole base anyway, If you really know how to look for it, you can get to it. That was just interesting to explore why the visibility, permissions aren't quite there yet. Did you find it?
And why the record limit.
And record limit, yeah. There's, again, to contrast the open source alternatives, I think both of the ones that we looked at don't have record limits. Part of the reason is they're not stored on the cloud, they're stored on your self-hosted server. And then the other reason is why they don't load the entire database at once. So they are allowed to have essentially unlimited records, contrasted with Airtable. But there's hope for more, I don't know, wider amounts of record limits. I don't think we're going to get unlimited record limits until they address the whole, we give you the entire base all in one go.
If they released unlimited record limits, I think it would be down within like 30 minutes.
Yeah, I don't trust the setup really to handle that. To be frank, I don't want my data to be, relying on the same servers as 20,000 other people who have unlimited records. Like, I think that's the point. If I'm at a point where I think I need some ungodly amount of records, where unlimited is the number I want to hear, not 50, not 100,000, not 200,000, unlimited, that's when I want my own server anyway.
Yeah.
I think I found it. No. Right person, wrong post.
I feel like to do an offline mode, because I remember Dan talking about how their like current interface, it kind of has some sort of an internal API with whatever is the system underneath the interface that like sends data there to update it. I feel like if it just had like a buffer, like you could make maybe like 5,000 edits and it would hold those as like API requests in an offline mode. After you make 5,000 edits, then you can't edit it again.
Sure.
But then after it goes back online, then it just sends those 5,000 API requests to their thing. Then you could do it that way. But then people would be upset about the limit.
That's true. I mean, there's at some point something's got to give, but I think there's room for some improvement in that regard. Just, some limited capability for offline mode would be great.
I feel if they just had like an ability to store those like requests for updates or creation or deletion, then it would, I just don't know. I don't know how really much of any of the coding works on it. But I feel like it can't be that hard to store it and just wait till it gets a connection.
Two, on record limits, I really wish there was a way to much more easily than you can now essentially archive records out of somehow where there's maybe still in the base, but you're not using them, you're not manipulating them, but you're not losing any of the formatting, but you're also not just duplicating your base and loading a whole bunch of stuff in that way to where you're kind of breaking a bunch of the links and things. There's a lot of time. So like we have a products list that has 40,000 things on it just because the product names sometimes are suffixed by a plant number. It's the same product, just gets shipped somewhere else. So it has to be coded somewhere else. But 90% of those things never get used. And so I just wish you could kind of say archive anything that doesn't have anything linked in this field. I don't know, maybe I'm asking for far too much. I'm not a developer. I don't know how these things work, but.
Recently I had a scenario similar to that, but it was more on just like an issue of having too many records in a base on a free plan. I had like one table and I had it in a pro plan because I had like 1,500 records in it. and it's just this one table. And I deleted so it was at like 900, so it was in the base trash, is where like those 600 or so records were. And I moved it to a free plan, and after I want to say like 30 minutes or something, I had like like one of the alarms or whatever that it was over the limit, because there were that many records between the base trash and the actual base. Because I think you could technically like bring those records back in, but I thought that was interesting that they like even if you got under the limits, it'll still say that like it exceeds the limits or capacity.
So
Well, and don't you
the-
only have access to that stuff for 7 days?
Yeah.
So you'd have
Or
to
you
clear out the trash to get rid of the alert.
Yeah, exactly.
I know I'm probably like not supposed to be saying this or talking about this. Since all of the hack email stuff, and we haven't had emails, all of the people with the highest level permissions are logged in as me right now. And absolutely nothing is happening to them. We're all using one license. I mean, they don't reference it quite as much as I do, and they don't particularly build in it, but why are you pushing this licensing model if it doesn't matter?
Apparently, there's a chance that the pricing model could see improvements or changes soon. One, according to Devin's email, and then two, it sounded like there could be more changes from what we heard last week.
Yeah, we don't really know any kind of specifics.
Mhm.
I don't know how drastically, like for instance, I don't know if the model necessarily is changing. It could be they're going with a different model, or they're going with like, there's just going to be more plans instead of free plus pro enterprise. There might be more gradations between. I don't think that's probably the case. I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility. Most companies, when they offer subscriptions, have like 3 plans. There's not like 30,000 different types of subscriptions that you could have. But because I don't know, I have to throw out all possible, options, so we're prepared for when it happens. They're probably adjusting their model in some way. So I don't know if they're going to do things based on, instead of your records per base, maybe it might be your maximum number of records per user or something like that. So then the incentive is you can't all just use one email. Each person gets 50,000 records or something like that instead of each base. That might be a
well,
thing.
then you run into the person who imports all the stuff. That's me. I bring everything into the bases, parse it out to where it needs to go. I'm the only one creating records.
That's true. So you could do it in 2 ways. You could tie records specifically to you, Rebecca, or it might be the base itself gets 50,000 records per active collaborator. I wouldn't recommend that model, but that's a possible thing that might come about this nebulous pricing model change that's been suggested. So
I think they'll add tiers of like pricing based on the number of people on the shared like team. They'll like either make the pro starter pack an actual plan people can get, or like have like, if you have like between 1 and 10 users, you can pay this much and share it with anybody.
I would like to see something, as much as I love Airtable, the other company that I'm in love with right now is Outseta. And they're not competitors, which is why I can speak freely of my love for them. But their pricing model is kind of by number of contexts you have, like basically your number of customers. I can have as many people on my team use my Outseta account as I want and not be charged any different. It's really how many customers I have that I'm keeping track of. It's a CRM, which is why you're being charged by customer. And then you have the option to say, I need 1,000 extra contacts or something, and you pay the price for that additional. I would like to see something in Airtable where if you have you have some number of records that you need. There's some system where you can say, once I've hit this limit, hey, I need to buy an extra 10,000 records or something like that. Right now, there really isn't an option. It's either you hit the limit and you're stuck, or you start deleting a bunch of records or archiving and then moving somewhere else. And, you know.
Well, and an interesting note about that is if they do come out with this UI, this stacker Pori, killer that we've heard rumors is coming, you could just charge per UI, kind of like Pori does for their kind of upgraded things. You pay by the month for this UI and that UI.
I think that is another thing that will be coming, if I had to guess, based on how much I've been hearing about it the past like 2 weeks. I feel like they're gonna kill one of those platforms.
And I heard.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I'm changing subject. So.
Okay. I feel like whatever their solution is, it's going to kill whatever external system is more focused on something still being an internal visualization tool. I think all of the ones that are like build a website for your product are probably still going to be fine, but anything that's like, here, look at your customers or something like that, there might be a more in-house solution coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
And so I saw something about that they're hosting a web event about growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really think that might be where we see this new pricing model, at least introduced, talked about a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
When is that? Do you know?
I think it's in June.
Like June 17th. No way I got that right.
Camille, do you use Outseta for your Airtable apps that you deploy?
I do, and I love it dearly. It's solved so many problems. I thought, you know what, I'll probably have to deal with this, but I'm such a small business, it doesn't really matter, yada yada. A, it matters. B, I didn't want to build it from scratch, and C, Outseta handles it pretty freaking well. So
nice.
If you have a system where you sell subscriptions to people, I highly recommend it. It's totally worth it. I forget what the breakpoints of all of their plans are. Let's just say mine is like 1,000 contacts or something. It's probably more like 5,000 or something, but like the price I pay to Outseta is like $30 a month, and they take care of emailing people. Like I updated Master Calendar, and just the thought of sending an email to everyone who has Master Calendar already or who has said they were interested in it and saying, hey, we've updated it, and like designing an email template in like MailChimp or whatever to look good. I didn't want to do that, and Outseta does it for me. Along with they're my help desk. So if you have a problem with any of my apps, the emails you send me, I look at all in one spot, and they handle accepting the payments and all that. When you log into my app within the app itself, it's Outseta doing the stuff and the kind of behind the scenes. So helpful.
It's June 15th.
You were close.
It's 6 days, so next Tuesday. June 15th. Yeah. Awesome. Maybe will you guys hear about that for the Built on Air podcast? Is that going to be before or after, do you think?
Well, we record on Tuesday mornings, so if it's the 15th, then it's probably going to take place after we record the episode. So it's probably, the week after is probably when we kind of give a little review.
Yeah.
I stole that piece of news from Chris, by the way.
Did he have that in our Airtable base?
Yes.
He's here in spirit. I'll keep my eye out for that one.
Well, I don't think I have anything else for today. Does anybody else have any final topics or final comments? Nope. Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you three, technically, with Eric and you. I don't know if he's still actually here, but thank you two specifically for sticking around until the end this week. I had a great time talking with you guys, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week for hopefully with some more news from the public Airtable meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, because this is Wednesday. So we'll have time to see the whole thing and stuff for next week's episode.
Yeah.
Hopefully with a Chris Dancy.